Hi everyone, welcome to the Celebrity Diaries. Dennis Edwards, a notable figure in American music, had a total assets of $5 million at the hour of his demise in 2018, known for his strong voice and dynamic stage presence. Edwards was best perceived as the frontman for the Allurements under Moan Records. His excursion with the Allurements started in 1968 when he supplanted David Ruffin, a progress that denoted the beginning of a period characterized by various hits and noteworthy exhibitions. Edwards' residency with the Allurements span a few periods from 1968 to 1976, 1980 to 1984, and again from 1987 to 1989. During these years, he contributed to a portion of the gathering's best tunes, including Father, Was a Drifter Chunk of Disarray, and Cloud9's coarse, deep voice reclassified the Enticement sound, controlling them through a season of massive change and trial and error. During the 1980s, Edwards sent off a performance profession, exhibiting his adaptability as a craftsman. His 1984 hit single, Don't Look Any Further, is a two-part harmony with SAA. Garrett turned into a champion achievement. The melody's smooth mix of R&B and pop components featured Edwards' capacity to adjust to various melodic styles, while keeping up with his unmistakable vocal character, regardless of wandering into solo work. Edwards' association with the Enticements remained solid until his demise. He drove the Enticements Survey, a subgroup of the unique band that proceeded to visit and perform exemplary hits. This job permitted Edwards to keep the Enticements' inheritance alive, carrying their immortal music to new ages of fans. Dennis Edwards was brought into the world on February 3, 1943, in Detroit, Michigan, to minister Dennis Edwards Sr. What's more, S.F. Fuller's excursion into music started at the youthful age of 2, singing in his dad's congregation. When Edwards was around 10 years of age, his family moved to Detroit, Michigan, where he proceeded to sustain his melodic gifts in the church, oversaw by his dad in the long run, turning into the ensemble chief as a youngster. Edwards' energy for music drove him to join a gospel vocal gathering called the Strong Billows of Bliss. His commitment to his specialty was obvious as he examined piano and music synthesis at the Detroit Studio of Music, roused by Sam Cooke's progress from gospel to mainstream music. Edwards chose to investigate the more extensive music scene in 1961. He shaped his own spirit with jazz gathering Dennis Edwards and the Firebirds, notwithstanding his mother's dissatisfaction with regards to mainstream music, which kept him from singing or paying attention to it at home. Edwards' assurance didn't work. In 1961, Edwards recorded a solitary for the Dark Detroit mark. Global Soil Records, I didn't need to, however, I did. No nonsense. Not long after, from January 1961 to December 1963, Edwards filled in as a field artilleryman in the U.S. Armed Forces. He burned through the vast majority of his selection, positioned in Europe with his last significant task at Central Command, 2nd Ordnance. Contingent 35 the Unmounted Guns, 7 the Armed Forces, where he accomplished the position of 4th-class subject matter expert. Getting back to non-military personnel life in 1966, Edwards was given a critical opportunity through the assistance of James Jamerson, an unbelievable bassist at Moan Records. Edwards' tryout for Detroit's, however, Moan Records, and was marked at first kept away from a performance profession. Rather, he was appointed to join the Forms. After their lead artist Billy Gordon became sick in 1967, the Forms filled in as the initial represent the Allurements where Edwards got the consideration of Enticements, Individuals, Eddie Kendricks, and Otis Williams during this period. The Enticements were examining an adjustment of their setup because of issues with their lead vocalist David Ruffin, who was a close companion of Edwards, perceiving Edwards' ability also, possible Kendricks, and Williams, started to consider him to be a potential substitution for Ruffin. This essential second denoted the start of Edwards' amazing excursion, with the Allurements prompting his enduring effect on the music industry. In 1967, Edwards bid goodbye to the Shapes, however, remained unnoticed until he was gathered back as a retainer. An open door appeared to Entice when Holland practitioner Holland, the famous songwriting and creation group, vowed to sign him to their recently laid out Invictus Records, anxious to quickly jump all over this opportunity. Edwards looked for discharge from his ongoing agreement anyway. Destiny had different plans. In late June 1968, The Enticements, who had recently excused Ruffin, drafted Edwards to join their positions to his help. Ruffin himself had informed Edwards ahead of time about this choice, facilitating his soul by introducing him as a substitution. The patched-up arrangement of the Enticements made their presentation in July 1968 at the celebrated Discussion in Los Angeles. The show was partitioned into two sections, with the first individuals acting in the first half, and Edwards making that big appearance. For the subsequent, it was on July 9, 1968, at Valley Manufacture, Pennsylvania, where the Allurements authoritatively presented Edwards as their most up-to-date part of his first collection with The Gathering Inhabit the Copa, which was recorded when they got back to the Copacabana Dance Club. The accompanying year, their studio collection Cloud 9 proclaimed another melodic bearing diving into the domain of hallucinogenic soul under the direction of Norman Whitfield. The collection's title single arrived at number 6 on the U.S. pop outline and acquired the sought-after 1969 Grammy grant for Best Mood and Blues Execution, vocal or instrumental, as the bunch advanced restrains emerged during the recording of Daddy, was a drifter as indicated. By Otis Williams. Edwards disapproved of the melody's opening refrain, which referenced September 3 as the day the hero's dad died. Edwards, whose own dad was said to have passed on September 3, questioned this record, prompting a harsh note inside The Gathering. The single arrived at number 5 on the R&B Bear and proceeded to win 4 Grammy Awards in 1972. Friction arose between Whitfield and the Allurements stemming from inventive contrasts. Whitfield's accentuation on melodic synthesis eclipsed the vocal perspectives as obvious in the tune. Magnum Opus 1973, looking for another course, the Enticements enrolled Jeffrey Bowen as their maker for the 1975 collection, A Melody for You. This delivery demonstrated productive, conveying 2 #1 R&B singles, Cheerful Individuals, 1974, and Precarious Ground, 1975. Anyway, during this period, Edwards' battles with cocaine enslavement demolished, making him miss practices. What's more, group gatherings in 1976 as the Enticements bid goodbye to Motown and join Atlantic Records. Otis Williams pursued the hard decision to end Edwards' enrollment. Because of his progressively unsuitable mentality, the takeoff denoted the finish of Edwards' residency with The Gathering and represented the challenges they looked all through their developing profession. Following his takeoff from the Allurements, Edwards found himself in a perplexing circumstantiation. In spite of being under agreement with Motown, he looked to seek after a performance vocation exchanges resulted, and during this period, Edwards started recording a collection, confident that an arrangement would be struck deplorably, the expected understanding neglected, to emerge, prompting the racking of his performance project. In an interesting turn, Edwards chose to work for his uncle's organization in Cleveland, drenching himself in the realm of development, explicitly embraced the assignment of building concrete carports. Anyway, had not wrapped up interweaving Edwards' way with the Enticements. In 1980, Edwards got a happy case to rejoin The Gathering as his substitution Louis Cost had left the Allurements, thus surrendering with Motown, and together they delivered the 1980 studio collection. Power, the lead single appropriately named Power, exhibited Edwards' return on lead vocals. The track crested at number 11 on the R&B graph, however, fizzled to move into the main 40 on the pop graph, with Edwards back in the overlap. Motown immediately jumping all over the chance to design an Enticements get-together collection in 1982, bringing back David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks into the ongoing arrangement. The get-together visit started off in Walk 1982, a week before the arrival of the aptly named Gathering collection, while Edwards dominatingly started to lead the pack on a few melodies Ruffin added to one track. Sadly, during the visit, Edwards found himself reconnecting with Ruffin in an unfortunate way. The two men come to the appeal of cocaine, consuming the medication during work hours, and a disturbing plunge into fixation that would have desperate outcomes in 1983. The Enticements delivered the studio collection Surface Thrills. That very year, an essential clash of the groups occurred on the TV exceptional Motown 25 Yesterday, Today, everlastingly pitting the Allurements against the Four Tops. During this uncommon occasion, Edwards and Four Tops frontman Levi Nails exchanged places, loaning their voices to one another's bunches. Hit tunes anyway. At this point, Edwards started displaying indications of shakiness, as often as possible missing shows what's more, practice. Thus, he was supplanted by Ali Woodson, denoting the end of his second residency, with the Enticements Spring of 1984 denoted a new section in Edwards' profession, as Midtown relaunched his performance tries with the arrival of the hit single Don't Look Any Further. In two-part harmony with S.A.A. Garrett, the self-named collection took off to number 2 on the ER&B outline, implying a victorious return for Edwards as an independent craftsman. Yet his way would converge with the yet again Enticements in 1987. Woodson's troublesome lateness prompted his excusal. Thanks for watching this video.